Good evening. This is John Milburn for Laws 11057, Introduction to Law. We're into Term 2, 2017, and it's Week 3. This week, the reading relates to the sources of law in Australia. But what we're going to do tonight is talk about the weekly topic and a few other things, including the assignment work. And I just want to share with you some of the information that we have on the Moodle site and some information, questions and comments that are being asked through UCrew. The first thing that I want to do is share the screen and share with you the unit profile. With luck, you're now seeing my second screen and the schedule. So for those of you that haven't found the top left-hand corner of Moodle, you'll see that in that area we have information, assessment overview, other information including textbooks, referencing style, and then the weekly schedule. I usually cut and paste that onto the front page of Moodle, but it's right there anyway, so I'm sure you'll be able to follow what it is that you're required to do, when, and keep up with the reading. Now, does anyone have a problem in finding that sort of information? I'm just scanning down. Everybody's nodding. Yes, it's easy to find. All right. The other thing is UCrew. Well, we've got the screen shared. I'll just see if I can find my call up for UCrew, because we're getting some really good questions coming through. And tonight, I just wanted to go through some of them. I am behind in responding to some of these at the moment, but we'll see here. And you can come in and unmute your microphone or use the chat facility to help me. So Chow asks, relating to the citation to the assignment, please upload more than the sample document. I'll go through the sample document tonight. But Sarah, great response. Look at chapter 6 in the textbook. I'll just stop the share there. The textbook has almost all of the information that you need for the basic material. So on pages 222 and 221, you've got some basic information about citing your material. So, for example, there, some information about cases, how to cite the case, what it should look like, when you use round brackets, when you use square brackets, how you cite journal articles, legislation, etc. So if you look at just those couple of pages, that will give you all the basics that you need about citation. But I do say this regularly, and I really mean it. You can learn a lot by osmosis, if you know what I mean, by simply looking carefully at documents that you're reading, judgments, textbooks, and just pick up on those styles that are used by the authors in those circumstances. And that's a great way to learn how to use citations. So, Chow, I haven't responded. Sarah, thank you for doing so. But that is a very good response, and that's the way to cite your material. The main thing with citation is that it's important that you ensure that you refer to any material that you have found elsewhere and acknowledge the source of that material from somewhere else. Now, Ashley was super lost. A few posts further down about the assignment assessment. Some really good responses there. Thank you for referring back to my sample document. The idea of that sample document is for you to identify some of the points that are important. In terms of word count, a few people have asked some questions there, somewhere between, some 1,000 words, 1,700 words. I'm pretty flexible on it. In this first assessment, you're going to do well if you prepare something that's even reasonable. Make sure everything is spelt correctly, it's laid out correctly, you followed all the basics, but you don't have to have anything too extensive. And if you go over the word count by a bit, that's fine. I'm not going to be terribly tough at all on this first assessment. So don't be too concerned about that. Good opportunity for you to find people that you can work with through UCrew, so please use that facility. Ellie asks about samples and some good responses there. And the sample portfolio template is available for you to consider, and it's something that you can include, but you don't have to. It's really just a sample, and in past offerings of the courses, many people have come up with different ways of presenting their material, which is excellent. Now, some comments about how to reference the Humsey-Hancock case, and it's a PDF. We're using what is known as a court report. That is, it is a report from the decision itself, and the way to reference that material in terms of a case is to look at page 222 of your text, and you'll see there the way in which we refer to all cases, including the Humsey-Hancock case. So you don't have to include a bibliography or a reference list at the end of the document. If you do so, as Bill suggests, at the footnote, by using footnote referencing, that is fine. You don't have to go beyond that. Some good comments there with Sharon and Sarah in terms of delegated legislation. Delegated legislation is tricky, and I will try and source some material that helps to explain that in a good way. But when we talk about delegated legislation, what we're really talking about is an ability of Parliament to delegate to others some legislation making power. I mean, a good example of that is councils. Councils don't have any power to make laws themselves. So all power to make laws, rules, regulations, bylaws on a council, a regional council, has to be conferred by statute. And in that delegated legislation, Parliament enables the body, in this case the council, to make those rules and regulations. One of the reasons for doing so is that Parliament would never get through its work if it had to deal with all of the issues. It helps to speed the process by having delegated legislation and regulations, and it means that those details that are really hands-on, on the ground type concepts can be dealt with efficiently by the people that are dealing with those issues on a day-to-day basis, rather than Parliament, which is looking to provide the overall structure. So that's what we mean by delegated legislation, and I will try to remember to put some material on there as well. There's a question here about, I listed chapter 6 today while working to get ahead, so thank you, Sarah, for looking at that. And it's always a good idea to skim through the text. My view is that when you attack a course, or whether you attack an assignment, or whether you're preparing a brief, or an opinion for a brief, then it's always a good idea to look fairly broadly, fairly quickly at the start, and then, I had to use the term, drill down from there. But it is a mistake in law to read carefully from the start and then work your way through to the finish. You won't have time to do that. So you need to take that bigger approach at the start and work down. So by looking ahead of the reading, even if it's quick, it does mean that you're likely to find something that you can use now. As I mentioned in week one of the problems with studying law, practicing law, and dealing with legal issues is that you don't know where to start. There's always so much. Don't be daunted by that, but just be aware of it and allow for that as part of your preparation process. All right, and if you have any questions, please feel free to unmute your microphone. I'd really like tonight to be an interactive session, so I'm not following the written script that I've got here. We're just looking at different things, and please feel free to ask questions as well through the chat facility if you prefer. I'm going to share the screen again. Sorry. Back to UCrew. I'm really happy with the way that people are using UCrew. It's the way that I intend for the interaction, the subject to occur, and we're getting some great responses. I really like the fact that people are sharing information, which means that you have a way to contribute both in providing information and providing responses to what your fellow students are saying as well. Some good discussion there in terms of the word count. There's the take-home examination issue. We have a limited period of time for take-home exams. I will just quietly let you know that this year you have a big advantage. I hope that I can say this. The advantage you've got is that you've got plenty of time to prepare the take-home examinations. The take-home exam is meant to be a replacement for an invigilated examination. So if you have a sit-down invigilated examination, you have to be at a certain place at a certain time, and you have 3-hour block, handwritten, complete the work, and it's done. The idea of the take-home examination is that we give you a period beyond 3 hours to complete what is in effect a 3-hour task. So if instead of saying you must be at a place at 9 a.m. to complete your 3-hour exam, we allow you between 9 and 3 to complete that exam, we've doubled the length of time available to you. So on, if you get a day, then that's so much more time. And in Introduction to Law, I think I've really given quite a lot of time. And I have worked in with Wayne in statutory interpretation in terms of when they're due. So there will be some clashes. Just go with the flow on those and make sure that you've got your preparation done as best you can. But remember, of course, that it's better than to have that clash over the period of, say, 24 hours or 30 hours, whatever it might be, rather than have to have a period of 3 hours as a distinct block, and that's all you get. So are there any questions on the examination process? Nothing coming through on the chat facility, nobody unmuting your microphones. So the question is, does that mean that you're looking for a better quality answer than just sitting down for 3 hours? Look, I am asking for a better quality, even though it shouldn't take you necessarily more than 3 hours to do the work. And the fact is that you have the ability to use the online resources that you wouldn't have access to in the examination. And in an examination, you're handwriting, so it's so slow by comparison to the speed at which many of you can write. So yeah, I am looking for something better, and it's graduated. Back in the dark old days when I went through university, we would have sit-down handwritten examinations for, say, 1 3-hour block for the full year of the examination. And it was closed book. And in many ways, it was a memory test. And I had my own techniques for memorizing material. But once I had remembered the material and got those things down on paper, the basic sections of the legislation or the cases, there wasn't so much time to expand on that and really explain it. So by having the online resources, by having everything available to you in a totally open book regime, yeah, I would expect that you'd be able to come up with something better than if it was closed test, memory, handwritten over a 3-hour period. I hope that answers the question. I'll just look at other issues on the page. We've got some questions here about Coordinated Governor General. There's a lot of really good material online when it comes to looking at the flow of material through the bill stage through for it being passed and into legislation. Okay, so thank you very much for all of you who have been using UCrew. I hope you didn't mind that I showed you those UCrew matters, but I just wanted to let you know that that is a really important function for you to take ownership and control, and you're doing it really well. Also, I mentioned, I think before we started to record, that this cohort is a really resilient lot, and I'm very impressed at the way in which you've collectively worked things out for yourselves and shared information. It's important in law to do that, and please continue on that basis. So that's excellent. All right. Now, how are we going with our weekly problems? Are people actually contributing answers to the weekly problems? We'll check in a moment.
I'm writing mine up right now.
What was that, Sarah?
I'm writing mine up for week 3 right now. I haven't had a chance to put them up yet.
Okay, very good. How about others? Are you finding that a useful task to actually formally write your answers? Not much interest in that one. All right. I think it's a good idea to do that. It establishes a couple of things. The first is that it provides you with the copyright. So if you have a question in relation to an examination issue, and it is to some degree reflective of the weekly problems, then you can simply reproduce your own work. You've already done that work. If others choose to reproduce that work, they have to reference you as being the source of the material. So why not become the author of the material if you've got an idea, and it will be a compliment if people choose to reference the material that you've provided as your answer. So most people say, yep, they're doing the assignments, they're looking at the questions, and that's very good. Let's share the screen once again to look at the issue of the weekly problems. So we have our Moodle site, problems for week 1. For those of you that aren't participating, it's as simple as this. You go to the bottom of the material for the week, you pan down to the weekly problems. You'll see that there's 1 or 2 or 3, maybe 4 questions, and then you add a new discussion topic, which then becomes your contribution. So many people have contributed. Identify the exercise number and what it is that you wish to say. So in this instance, it looks like Nicholas was first in, so well done. We'll just have a quick look at Nicholas's response to question 1.1, and that's excellent. So just a quick statement about what it is that you look to do with your law degree, and you can reply to this if you want to make a comment to what others have written. You can continue their discussion in the same sort of way that we do in UCrew. So do continue to use those problem exercises. Now, just on that first problem, which was articulate the legal work that you wish to do as a lawyer and what has drawn you to the work, just as a quick poll, how many of you want to practice as a lawyer? Are there many? Yeah, we've got a few flat hands going up.
Yes, I do.
Okay, good. All right, so have you decided whether you want to be a barrister, solicitor, in-house counsel, academic, a judicial officer? Not a barrister. That's probably a good idea.
Too early to decide at this point, I think, John.
Yep, and that's a fair comment as well. I'll just stop the share so we can share some ideas. One thing you can do at this early stage is to try to link with practitioners. There are many practitioners that would be happy to share information with you. While I'm not doing this just at the moment, at the Community Legal Centre where I am, I was volunteering my time to assist people with legal problems on a pro bono basis. But there was one catch, and that catch was that I would only do that if I was allowed to have students accompany me. And so typically I'd have 4 or 5 students, many of whom were or junior practitioners, would come along to those sessions. So you may find that there's someone who's willing to do that sort of thing in your area. The other thing that you can do is go to the courts or tribunals. They're open to the public almost always. And if you haven't been down to the courthouse just to sit and spend an hour or 2 watching what goes on, I urge you to do so. It may be that the local magistrate or the judge who's presiding would be happy to speak to you. Don't be afraid to introduce yourself to those people that are participating, the lawyers that are participating. If it's a police matter, the prosecutor or the DPP counsel. Most people are happy to talk to you and share some information. Yes, David.
I know that law students volunteer at community legal centres and the like. What, in your opinion, is the sort of the right time in a degree that you think you would have something to offer as a law student in order to be able to have something more valid to offer in order to assist in a volunteer role?
I would say year 1, David. I would say right from the start. And the reason I say that is that you may not be able to provide a lot of answers, but at least you'll understand what the questions are, and it'll give you a good idea of where to start looking. It may well be that you can benefit others who need to do some research by volunteering to do that research. And I know you're busy, and I know that you've got a lot to do with study, work, family commitments, trying to keep fit, all those sorts of things. But if you can find some time to become involved with people in the industry, it'll really pay off. So there's no necessarily right answer to that, David. It's a great question, but I would have thought as soon as you can. And it'll provide you with that impetus to take it further. All right, so Ben, yes, Sarah?
I know that when I was doing my Bachelor of Criminology and Criminal Justice, one of the units was on police, courts and criminal law. And one of the assessments was to go sit in on a trial, a sentencing at an intermediate or higher court. And then we had to write a report on it. And it was really, like, my mum ended up coming with me because I didn't really know about going on my own because I'd never been to the intermediary court at that point. And even mum agreed that it was really interesting just to watch.
And if you're able to get to Brisbane, to the courts complex, you do have an advantage in that there are many courts that are open to the public and operating, so that if there's an adjournment, for example, or a delay in one of the courts, it's easy to find another one. And you'll just pick up on little differences. For example, in the Court of Appeal, the judges of the Court of Appeal don't wear their wigs, whereas the other Supreme Court judges in the trial division will wear their wigs. Then there's just little nuanced things, but they're all open to the public, generally speaking. And of course, if you do go to the Brisbane Courts Complex, make sure you go to level 12, go to one of the happiest places in the world, the Supreme Court Library, check out study room number 5 and meet some of the staff. They're always excellent and very happy to help you. Any other people with reflections about what they want to do in law or tips they've picked up? Gary?
Hang on, John, I'm just trying to fix my computer.
Righto, that's fine. While we're waiting for Gary, is there anyone else wish to ask a question, make a comment? All right, and we've got comments here about working in local government. Excellent idea. All right, Gary, anything you wish to add? No? All right, we'll just go back. Yes, David?
You were asking the question about if people want to be a solicitor or a barrister before. I've gotten the impression that you generally have to be a solicitor for a certain amount of time before you can realistically kind of be an effective barrister anyway. Is that right?
Certainly that's what most people do. I would say that from my observations, most people who sit the bar exam, which is a prerequisite now to sitting the bar practice course, would have practiced as solicitors for somewhere between 5 and perhaps 15 years. Some much longer than like me, but others go through straight away. So one thing that I was watching to see if people would say is judge as associate. Nobody said that, but many people that go straight to the bar do so after applying successfully to be an associate to a judge. I've had people in the course that in CQU getting near the end of their course asking me for advice about how they might successfully apply to become a judge as associate. So if you were going to go straight to the bar, then I think having a stint as an associate to a judge would be an excellent thing if you can do it. But you do need good grades. That's the starting point for that. But look, I wouldn't necessarily be scared off of going straight to the bar. It'll be tough, but you can do it. Any other questions about that? Being in a community, yes.
Thought in Queensland that there was a restriction on whether you could be a practicing solicitor or a barrister. You could only be one or the other, whereas in New South Wales, you could be sort of both.
That's right. In Queensland, you can only be a solicitor or a barrister. You can't be both. So when I switched from one to the other, I had to relinquish my practicing certificate. But in other areas, other states, you can. It is a merged profession, so you can effectively practice as both. That's right, Nicholas. Thank you.
Yeah. So in essence, you just said you had to relinquish your practicing certificate. So you had to give up being a solicitor to become a barrister, basically.
Exactly. Yes.
Wow.
That's
Okay.
it.
It's a lot of time spent in one, but I guess it's transference of information from one job to
Oh,
the.
it is. Yeah, look, it is, and you know, just in my particular instance, I went against the idea of specialisation to be more in general practice. In this sense, that I've reinvented myself. Used to be every 5 years, sort of seems to be every 10 years now, but reinvented myself. Even actually within that more constantly. So, you know, I've set up community legal centres, sort of done that community aspect of it. Been practicing as a solicitor for a whole bunch of years now as a barrister. Hear matters in tribunals for the Mental Health and Queensland Civil and Administrative Tribunal, and of course, being able to work in this academic sphere as well. So there are plenty of opportunities, and you don't have to restrict yourself to one. Other people choose to specialise at an early stage. And there's a great advantage in specialising in that you can then charge premium fees and more likely gain advancement through the ranks because of that specialty knowledge within that field. So that's a personal choice though. Question here, is a judge's associate only for 1 year? I believe it is, Lisa, but sometimes people will reapply successfully to have more than 1 year. Yes, any questions?
Just on that judge's associate, you were talking about good grades, John. What are we talking about? Distinctions and high distinctions as minimums, or what are we looking at?
No, and with grades, they have changed over the years. So just as a general observation from me, I would say that it's now, I mean, this is going to sound silly, but it's generally easier to get higher grades now than it was sort of back in the 70s. You know, for example, there might be 300 people go through and they would offer only, you know, there might be 2 people who get a high distinction out of the 300. That type of thing was not uncommon. So it is a bit easier, but generally speaking, I think you'd need to be looking at getting up round 6 to realistically to be applying for a judge's associate position. But you can do it. You can do it.
Oh,
You can get
give
there.
me a target to aim for, John. That's always an appreciation.
All right, 6.0. Go for that. If you get 6.0, you're definitely in the top bracket. But I think that's what you need to do if you want to be a judge's associate.
I'll fix his boat if he takes a 4.
Okay. And don't worry, if you get a 4, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I need to emphasise this, that if you pass the course, you're doing just fine. So don't be too hung up about the grades. All right. Any questions, comments? Yes, David? And you can just unmute your microphone.
You were talking about grades. I've kind of been doing a bit of reading, and I don't know which to believe or whether it's both true. And some is if you're applying for a law firm or somewhere to work, that the employers actually want to know exactly what your GPA was, and that's really important. Others I've heard it's maybe not so important. And is it really that much of a mixture, or is it true? Or
yeah, it depends. To some degree, I think it depends on the job you're looking to achieve. If you're going into practice for yourself, then grades don't mean anything at all, at 0, unless you want to use it as a marketing tool. If you're going to work as a judge's associate, you probably need to have the higher level. If you want to work in one of the top tier firms, as a solicitor, you probably need those higher levels as well. But it's not just about grades. For example, having this online course, I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but I am confident, absolutely confident, that you are learning skills, IT skills, that others studying law elsewhere will not. Now, there might be trade-offs to that. So I guess the point is, though, that if you're developing these skills, when it comes to marketing yourself in terms of employment, they're the sorts of things that you want to emphasise just as much, if not more, than your grade. But grades are still important, yes.
I could probably add a little bit to that, John, is that I noticed that Harvard Business School is taking an interest in what CQ University is doing as far as online law degrees. And their attitude is that within probably 3 to 5 years, in most law graduates around the world will not be sitting down at a university. It will be online because of the vast amount of online components and AI and artificial intelligence that's moving into the law sphere. So it's going to be critically important to have good computer skills, I think.
Absolutely. I agree with that totally. Look, I might be wrong on this, but I think even in Queensland now, every university has an online component except for University of Queensland. So it's definitely moving this way. Swinburne is now like CQ, I believe, which is an entirely online situation, and it does give you that opportunity to develop skills. As perhaps an advertisement for what you're doing as part of this law school, can I just say that I've found it much easier to secure guest speakers from time to time. So in the various subjects that I take over the past few years, I've had essentially interviews or even live sessions where students have joined us with QCs, some QC who's now a judge, um, scientists in the environmental sphere, experts of different fields, and I just couldn't get them to come out to, travel to Rockhampton to be at a venue at 5 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon. But by being able to be online, it's much easier. So I guess the point is that we can provide greater access in terms of guest speakers quite simply through that process as well. So thanks for that, Nicholas. Yes, David. And
is that also including? Is that also including at advanced subjects, including moot law and things like that, where you have that sort of dialogue happening? So that's all done online for online students?
All online. Yep. Okay. So part of this first exercise that we're doing, the portfolio, getting the video organised, making sure that your documentation looks the part, and the reason I can say you'll get good marks if you just present something that's, presented well, is we're really looking to set the ground rules, the platform for you to start using this technology so that you're confident when you get to some of the courses where you are doing assessments online to camera, then you've got some exposure to doing that. So, for example, I take alternative dispute resolution, and the first assessment that I've been offering students for the last couple of years relates to conducting an online mediation session, and they then upload that session for me to view. Other times we, say in evidence and proof, we'll be inviting you to look at videos of movies and come up with questions and essentially interact with that process by thinking about the sort of questions you would ask in those circumstances and uploading your responses. So, yep, there's a lot of online component. Lisa says, well, a lot of law is done online now, filing documents at courts, settling conveyances. E-law is a big area of practice, and it's growing. In the federal court, the judges now are paperless. So if you go into the federal court, you'll see the federal court judges in front of what appears to be a huge tablet screen where they're flicking pages. And if you're not able to get on top of that technology, you are going to get left behind. So you're off to a really good start. And helping each other with the technology is really important as well. I haven't looked at Moodle far enough down to see, UCrew far enough down to see how many people have said that they can beat me in a typing challenge, for example. Has anyone seen that post? It was a question right at the start. Do you think you could beat me in typing?
I saw that question, John, but that depends on whether you're typing or whether you're actually using software to type for you, doesn't it?
You've exactly identified the issue there. If it was real typing, you would smash me. But if it's using voice recognition software, you'll have trouble keeping up with me. I won't say you can't beat me, but you will struggle. So that's exactly right, Nicholas, and I'm using the word typing in a very broad sense there. But if anyway, sometimes in week 12 we have a little challenge. Bit hard when you're doing take-home exams, but it's there.
I've
Yes,
been
Nicholas?
cheated, I guess. John, I've been using voice recognition software on my computer for about 10 years now, so I have a lot of stuff that gets done rather fast with it. Just not possible any other way.
Exactly. I did a YouTube video, which is part of the CQU format a few years ago, espousing the advantages of using voice recognition software. One of the things that you need to consider is this. When you're using voice recognition software, you've got your hands free, which means that while you're talking, you can be picking up a book, looking at a screen, scrolling through information. Your hands aren't physically tied to the keyboard. So that's an advantage. Here's another advantage, and I think this is the most important thing for you to consider. It provides you an opportunity to enhance your advocacy skills every day. While you're typing, you've got your head down and you're not talking. While you're using voice recognition, you've got your head up, you're talking, you're having to structure your thoughts and promote something that is going to be intelligible for the machine to type. If you haven't structured your thoughts correctly in advance, then you're not going to come up with a document that looks the part. But by using voice recognition, you are training yourself to be an advocate. So keep that in mind as well. Gary says he uses voice to... So Gary uses his voice for other reasons, to assist cadets to do the right thing. So thank you, Gary. So
I guess the other point there, John, is that if anybody hasn't used voice recognition software, as you'd be aware as I am, there's a bit of a learning curve with the language that needs to be spoken so that the machine can actually type correctly. So it's not a case of just speaking in English all the time, is it? There's a few nuances that need to be understood about it.
Well, that's true. And so, for example, if I'm dictating, I'll say, cap submit your document in cap word, comma, not PDF format, full stop, new line. So you start to rattle off some of those punctuation things through a bit of practice. But when I first used voice recognition software, 15, 20 years ago, when it first came out, I laboured over it for hours, days, and I just couldn't get it to work. Now you buy, so I use Dragon, for example, Dragon 15, grab that straight off the shelf, key it in, and I can guarantee that from my experience, within half an hour, you'll be typing documents that are excellent, much quicker. Now, Nicole says, I'm much faster at typing than have to go back and edit this voice software, so maybe I need some practice. It doesn't take long to get used to the dictation process through voice recognition. Having said that, most people that I encourage to use voice recognition choose to remain with typing, and that's fine if that's what you want to do. But certainly for someone of my vintage who did not learn how to touch type, voice recognition meant that I'm able to do so much more than I was at the start. Any other questions, thoughts? Is it Apple McSavvy? I think so. Yes. All right. And there's a whole lot of different software. Just speaking of software, if you don't know how to use, say, the Word program, please learn how to use that, just even to a basic level. I'm no expert on it, but you've got to know how to use styles. You've got to be able to format properly. Make sure that you learn how to use page numbering. Footnote referencing is an absolute must. They're all so simple. If you're having trouble, just let us know, and I'm sure that there'll be people in your class that would be very happy to help, and people that probably, well, I'm sure they'll be better at than I am. But I've learned enough to be, I think, proficient to a good degree.
John, I've had trouble with the 365 on my Apple Mac.
Oh, have you? Oh,
Yeah,
well.
My old program that I used to have independent on my Apple Mac, it was actually, the Office Suite for Mac, 2014. That is absolutely brilliant, right? But I just get so many problems with the 365 version of it, and I'm not sure why. Like I would be halfway through a document and template and added this in and added that in, and I've got to go and you know, feed the dog or something, come back and it hasn't changed, save changes. I've got to recommence. I've done that about 5 times now with this particular software I downloaded from the uni.
Okay. Yeah, look, I'm sorry, I'm not an expert on 365, how it interacts with Mac, but I use 365. I think you probably realise that already, and I think it's great. But, you know, maybe the idea is you just got to make sure you save regularly as well. All right. Question here about footnote referencing, the dominant form of referencing in law assignments. Absolutely. Yes. Footnote referencing. Look, there's nothing wrong with having a table of contents. There's nothing wrong with having a bibliography. Some of your course, units we call them now, some of your unit coordinators will ask you to include those things. I don't. You can if you like. You can use a cover page. You can use a table of contents. On a lengthy document, that's not a bad idea. You can certainly add in a bibliography, and that's a good idea too. They don't count towards your word count as far as I'm concerned, but footnote referencing is the absolute must. If you don't have footnote referencing, then you're not following the requirements for the assessment piece. Some people say, well, can I use endnotes instead of footnotes? Generally not. The standard practice in law is to use footnotes so that people can draw their eyes down the bottom of the page and see what's coming up. All right. The only other referencing style is Harvard. No, sorry, was APA. I don't know what APA is. Sorry, Sarah. But the footnote referencing style is more convenient. Harvard is another style of referencing. You would use that if you're doing a handwritten exam in law. Harvard is where you sort of provide the reference immediately after the indication of what it is that you're citing. Sarah, did you want to elaborate on that? Can't hear you, Sarah.
Mike didn't want to click back on. APA is the Australian Psychological Association's referencing style, and in my criminal justice one, they had that as a sort of standard across the entire degree because it was linked in with the psychology branch of the university at Griffith. So it was the other style I've encountered. It's not actually all that different to Harvard. I'm doing Harvard for my IT course at the moment. The in-text referencing is convenient, and it doesn't require pinpoint notes, so you don't end up with a bunch of extra numbers in your in-text citations. But the footnote referencing is also really nice because you put your reference in as you go, and then you can just forget about it. You don't have to go back through your entire assignment and go, I need this reference, and this reference. That was the most horrible thing about doing a bibliography for my thesis. I had 5 pages of references, and I'm like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. No, I agree with all you're saying there, and footnote referencing is a really easy way to do it. Okay, so the point there is if you don't know that piece of technology, please do so straight away and get on top of that. Okay, I'm just going to share the screen again. We'll have a look at my other desktop. Back to the questions. Question 2 was the nature of academic integrity, how it forms the ethical basis for your future as a in the legal profession. In terms of university policy on plagiarism, just be aware of the difference between collaboration and collusion. There's nothing wrong with collaborating, sharing ideas in a general sense, but ultimately the work that you produce must be your own. Do have a look at the case law on that point. And just remember, of course, that what you do during university may and is likely will have an impact on any application that you might make to become a legal practitioner. While we're looking at these questions, another question on the chat line. Assignment 1, do we have to submit both Word and online video? You do need to produce a video of some sort. When it comes to, and I'll stop the share for a moment because I think some people have been asking about the way in which they submit their work. Look, what I'm really after is for you to prepare your portfolio in a professional manner and ideally have it uploaded in an online format. That's what we're really looking for. If you choose to duplicate that work which is online in a Word document that you present to me, then that's fine. And if your document, which is in Word and also online, is 1,500 words, don't worry, it's still within the word count. If it's a duplication, I'm not going to ask you to double up. If you choose to effectively provide me with the link to the online material that you've got, then that's fine. So all I'm really interested in is being able to see what you've produced. If you don't want to produce something online, even though you'll lose a couple of marks, which is really not going to be here or there, in all likelihood, then you can just produce a Word document and send me your Word document, upload your Word document in the usual manner. So has that clarified issues or confused issues?
So does that mean we can get away with just sending you a Word document with a link to our online profile and that's it? We don't have to provide anything else in the Word document?
Yeah, I think that's fine. Does that fit within what I'd said in the assessment? It's a while since I wrote the assessment. Yeah, look, that's so long as I can get to it. But just make sure that you check your link, if you would. Every year I have to send emails to students saying it says it's private, I can't access it. So do what you have to do to ensure that I click the link and get straight through.
In saying that, John, I know that a lot of people are going to have an issue with that because when you create that account, based on that video I put up before, by default, it makes it private and not accessible for anybody else. So I am going to help out and do a quick video later on in the week as to how to change that so that when they're ready to publish it, they can publish it, send the link out, and you should be able to access it.
That's awesome, Nicholas. And for those of you that haven't seen Nicholas's video, it's terrific. It's really well done. I take it that most people have had a look at that. So we look forward to your second instalment of that and kind offer to help with your colleagues, Nicholas. That's excellent. All good things for your professional portfolio as well. All right, so Nicole said, need to change each document link to online portfolio separately in sharing settings so that they're also not private. Thank you, Nicole. So do check those things. What I suggest is that you send it to someone else, ask them to check it out, and hopefully, if it works for somebody else, it'll work for me as well. And we'll look forward to Nicholas's further video in that regard. So have I explained reasonably well what it is that I'm looking for in the first assignment? You need the video, you need to have the portfolio. I would love to see it online. You can duplicate the portfolio that's online in a Word document as well, or you can just produce a Word document with the link and I'll have a look at it online. But you do submit the work in Word through Moodle. I think some have already submitted their work, and good on you for doing so. If anyone has problems in trying to work out the technology, just ask through uCrew, and I'm sure there'll be some brilliant responses. Okay, Gary says YouTube account set up via YouTube. Yep. So that's it. I think that most people will end up lodging through YouTube. If it's a short video, I think you can get around having to upload through YouTube. But again, I'm not that technologically minded that I can say that with any certainty. Nicholas and others may have to help out with those sorts of issues.
Standard limit on YouTube for unregistered accounts is 10 minutes, John. 10
minutes. Okay, good. All right. So you don't need, I'm sure you don't have to have a video that's longer than 10 minutes. So that might be another way around it if you're a little concerned about uploading through YouTube. Okay, and Gary's given some information. YouTube account setup is done via u.u@cqlaw.net to upload it to YouTube at cqlaw.net. Okay, thank you. So let's just go back to the problems, the questions. I'll share the screen once again. If you have any questions, please feel free to simply unmute your microphone. You don't need to get my attention. Just ask away or use the chat facility. Hannah asks, are we expected or do we need to read the whole referencing guide? It's 334 pages long. That's a really good question, Hannah. No, don't read all the 334 pages. But if you're looking at the Australian Guide to Legal Citations, have a look at the back, and there's a ready reckoner, and there's some excellent material that summarises the important content. I think, I think I have uploaded material in relation to that. We'll just have a quick look. Yes.
Yeah, I have a copy, like a brief copy of Deakin University's version of the Australian Guide to Legal Citation. It's only 15 pages, and it basically just covers the different references formats.
Okay.
So I might post that on uCrew if I can figure out how from my iPad.
Thank you, Sarah. That would be excellent. And yeah, Nicholas has given us the link. Yes, Nicholas?
I've just given you the link to that exact same document. Sarah must have been thinking the same as I was. Thanks, Sarah.
And I'm also aware of that document. I'm not sure if I've uploaded it to part of the additional resources. Oh, I've got some material there, but look, if either of you could post that link on uCrew, or both of you, that would be excellent, and I'll have a look as well. So Hannah, don't read it all. It will drive you crazy, but do have a look for one of the summary guides. Thank you. There's also a video on Academic Learning Centre on CQU website that highlights the common things. Okay, well, thank you, Nicole. Again, if there's a link to that video that you can share through uCrew, that would be excellent as well. All right. Very good. Now, the next question